If you go back historically and look at the records for the city of Charleston, back to its founding, there was always a pattern of hurricanes. The funny thing about them is that they tend to hit just far enough apart that people forget.
Charleston is a coastal city. I mean, we're surrounded by water. We've always flooded in different degrees over many, many years. You can look back in the historical record, find historic images and historic accounts of flooding.
They hit every 30 or 40 years historically, but even back to the very first days, the city would be totally flooded by hurricane events. It's nothing new. But recently, we saw this increase in the speed and the rate of storm events, and that's what really got us in motion.
You know, Joaquin certainly was a pivot point for the region, I believe, particularly because it was followed up with 2 other storms 2 years in a row after that. Our threat in Charleston, like the rest of the East Coast and the Gulf Coast, really comes from 3 different threats. Sea level rise is the steady one. The seas have risen at the Charleston tide gauge 1 foot over the last 100 years. We know over the last 7 years that that's accelerating quite a bit. The second threat is obviously these new rainstorms that we're getting. We term them extreme precipitation events. The third area is this tidal flooding, and we're starting to see more frequent high tides as they get higher begin to impact whether it's roadways or people's backyards, things like that.
One of the things we learned from the Dutch is that you can't just do one thing. You can't just try to absorb more water or just drain more water out of the city. To really effectively manage a city like ours, we have to do everything at once and use many techniques.
Any infrastructure that you're investing in, you also look at it, as they call it, I love it, through the lens of water. You're thinking about how that infrastructure investment not only can serve its primary purpose, parking cars, having children play, open space, but it's also how it can double down as a mechanism for improving water drainage, water storage, water retention.
The future is going to be all about land use. Where we build and how we build, and that's throughout the region, that's throughout the coast. It's going to take a lot of money to fix the past, and in the past we didn't know what we know now. What we can't do is make those mistakes going forward.
It's not something that's going to come quickly or easily, and that we're all going to have to work together ultimately to facilitate these things. Protecting the city from flooding is going to be a long-term endeavor, and it's something that we're all going to be involved in.